Good evening and welcome. I first just want to start by again giving another round of applause to all of us to acknowledge and celebrate that we are here together and in person and with all of these lovely people. So let's give it up. We have a great set of conversations and dance works to show you tonight. So I'll start first with Mr. Robert Battle. Robert, let's talk first about this being the homecoming season. The audience are so excited to be able to see the company perform again, but talk to me about, how you're feeling returning to the stage for live performance.
Well, first, hi everybody. It's just great to not be on Zoom. We are not on Zoom, right? Okay, thank you. First of all, though, I just have to start by saying what a brilliant job you did with that film. You just saw just a little sort of promotion of it and the whole thing, but it is really quite brilliant. And so I just want to say that it has been so profound, the way that you have brought his life onto the screen in such a sensitive and beautiful and powerful way when we need it most. So the Oscar is already yours as far as I'm concerned, right?
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. In terms of being back at City Center, homecoming, oh my goodness. Who would have thunk it, right? It is... We can't wait. I don't even know. I don't even have words anymore. I think we've tried to use so many words to describe this time we're in, so many words to describe what we hope to be when we're on the other side of this. But I always say where words falter, dance excels. And so the reason that I choreograph, the reason that I'm involved in dance is because there are some things for which words are not enough. And I think that will be expressed in so many ways when we're back live and in person at City Center. So I'm excited because the legacy lives on. Not that we haven't found new ways to connect, as you will see, digitally, on the screen and the rest. But there's nothing like getting that immediate response from our audiences that you are the third partner in that duet that's a trio when we're in front of the audience. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that quotient in terms of what happens in the theater is as much a part of the dance as the dancers, as the choreographer, as the lighting, as the costume, as you are. And so we are thrilled, I tell you. I hope you are too, and that you've bought many tickets. Don't act like you don't hear me. If you don't show up, it's gonna suck. Okay.
Well, that connection is gonna be amazing, and it is one that I am just like, whoo, so excited for. I've got, I worked with this legacy material. I got to see the Ailey company rehearsing Lazarus, but, the film, Dance on Film, which we're going to talk about tonight, is wonderful, amazing. It's another kind of entryway, but being able to see you guys perform live again is going to be incredible. Yeah. In addition to the homecoming to, back to City Center, this is also a big anniversary for you personally. Yeah. So you're coming up on 10 years that you have been the artistic director of the company. And, to commemorate that, there's actually the Battle program, which is an opportunity for all of us to see a selection of works that you yourself have choreographed. So I'd love to talk about that, maybe beginning even with Love Stories, the first work you choreographed, and what it means for you to be able to see all these works together in one evening.
10th anniversary, I think, though, these last 2 years, we could probably attach another 10. I did not have gray hairs here, 2 years ago. But I'm really honored that it's been 10 years. I still remember when Judith Jamison grabbed me by the arms and said, "Look into my eyes, it's yours." lo, those many years ago. And at that time, I thought, oh, I hope that they don't realize I don't know what I'm doing and recast. It hasn't happened yet. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But anyway, I'm still here, and I'm very humbled, blessed. Yes, it is a job, it is an occupation, but where I'm from, it's a calling. You know, when I think about, you mentioned Love Stories, which was a 3-part ballet. It was actually the second work that Judith Jamison asked me to be a part of. And we were just moving into our wonderful building on 55th and 9th, the Dance Center, Joan Weil Center for Dance. And she wanted to do something that paid homage to past, present, and future, so that she would choreograph something about the past as a first section, right? And it would be about being in these funky spaces and basements and all of that when they were just starting out. And then Rennie Harris, who uses hip hop as his vocabulary, would do something about the present. This was in 2005, I believe. And then I was to choreograph the elusive future, which I thought, wow, and she said the only through line is that we all have to use music by Stevie Wonder. I thought, piece of cake, what an assignment. Choreograph the future. And it's interesting and prophetic that lo, many years later, that I would be in this position. And so Love Stories has a certain resonance. I don't know if I hit the future on the head, but certainly I use music when he was a young boy, as you can hear his voice and see that he was in this live performing, looking out at that precipice. And so I think that's where we continue to be, always looking at that precipice, that horizon that leans forward, right? And so it's an amazing time.
It's so interesting to hear you say the phrase choreographing the future, because in many ways your role as the artistic director is kind of choreographing the future of the company. And I'd love to talk to you about some of the innovations you've made. You know, you created the new Directions Choreography Lab, and I want to talk about kind of how you saw that being, you know, keeping alive a kind of vision of Mr. Ailey's to always be thinking about voices of the next generation.
Yes, I mean, Alvin Ailey founded this company in 1958, but he didn't want it just to be his choreography. He wanted to give the floor to other choreographers who saw the world in different ways. I think that's extremely important in my role. The first thing I started was the New Directions Choreography Lab. And this is a wonderful program because what is more difficult in New York City but to have what choreographers need, time and space, and also to be able to have dancers to work with or play with in the studio, because we know for creative people, playing around can be serious business. And so I wanted to start a program that gave people the opportunity, choreographers that could come in, have a stipend, have some kind of mentorship or some kind of person in the field to kind of guide them along the way, however they wanted to have that relationship, a choreographic advisor, and to work with select students of our school, the Ailey School, some of the most talented in the world, but you know, I'm biased, okay. And be able to not have to have a product at the end. I think that we suffer so much in this sort of world of only product-driven processes rather than the journey mattering in the end. And so that really was the genesis of it, and it's been many choreographers have participated. And so that to me speaks to how I came into the Ailey family, not only through the school, but through our junior company, Ailey II. Sylvia Waters was then the director who brought me in because she saw my work, because David Parsons, who was my first dance boss out of Juilliard, allowed me to choreograph on the company, and she saw the work because she just happened, no, I begged and pleaded with her to please come downtown and see my choreography. And after a couple of desperate moments, she came and she saw it and then had me do work on the second company in 1998. And I'm proud to say that the new artistic director of Ailey II, Franchesca Harper, is right here. And she can tell you her story better than I can, but to just say, she is, in a sense, an Ailey baby who went on to do many things, but has now returned home. And so I'll let you sort of tell your story.
Oh my goodness, okay. Hello, good evening, everyone. It's lovely to be here. Thank you, Robert. It's ironic because my alma mater is right down the street at Nightingale Bamford. I used to walk by the Guggenheim every day, so it's wonderful to be back here. And you know, being the artistic director of Ailey II has truly exceeded my dreams. It's a joy to be back at Ailey where everything started for me. And I have to say that my story is very interconnected with another woman's story, my mother, Denise Jefferson. She came to New York as a single mom years ago and on scholarship at the Graham School. So that's how she started, fell in love with Graham, and then got enchanted by Alvin Ailey and just ran over to the Ailey School and became a Graham teacher there, and then rose up through the ranks to scholarship director, and then directed the Ailey School for over 26 years. So I grew up in the studio watching all of these incredible dancers, Gary DeLoach and Renee Robinson. I remember when she came in her purple unitard. Mom was like, oh, look at, she's gorgeous. And so I just have all of these incredible stories. And she worked closely with Judith Jamison and Sylvia Waters. Sylvia lived like 4 blocks away from my house, and I played with her son, Kenya. So, I mean, it was really all in the family. And they were incredible role models for me, you know, these women. It was just, and in turn, they really encouraged us to follow our dreams. So that's why I'm sitting here this evening. And I remember walking through the revolving door for the first time after you had called me. And I was appointed. And I'll tell you, there was just like a cavalcade of memories just swept through my mind. It was 3 decades of memories. And these memories were really, had served and had carried me for so many years through really challenging times. These people that were really just this foundation that I carried with me to Europe, and then came back to New York, and then here I am passing on all of the love that was poured into me, I'm hoping, and already starting the process, not hoping, I'm in process right now, of pouring all of that love that I received into these incredibly talented dancers, the Ailey II dancers. We are in there every day. And it's just really quite remarkable. I've seen such tremendous growth in just, I think we've been together 5-6 weeks. I think some of them are here. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Amar. I knew it. Anyway, but they're just, I'm so proud already. I was saying to Robert, I just look at photos now and I go, oh my gosh, look at them. I'm just falling in love with them. So it's just remarkable to carry on the legacy.
And as part of that, talk a bit about, what are you looking forward to in this season? What are you looking forward to for Ailey II at City Center?
You want to,
yes.
We want to know what's going on. Okay, so our season includes some repertory, of course, our Ailey classics. But I'm really excited. We're going to have a 10th anniversary program. I've curated myself of Robert Battle Works. We have a world premiere that Robert came in, was inspired, just came in the studio and made this incredible work. So that's going to be part of the program. I couldn't have asked for a better gift. And that will be coupled with Alvin's Revelations. We have Andrea Miller, who's an incredible, I've just been an admirer of her work this first season. We're remounting the work that she created for Ailey II last season. We have first company member Yannick Lebrun, who's created Samani that we're remounting. It's just a gorgeous piece. I fell in love with it as soon as I saw the video. And there's some secret, I cannot divulge yet. We have some secret people, choreographers that you will have to read about or just buy your ticket and come see. But really exciting contemporary choreographers. No, I'm not telling you. No, he's trying to get me, no. But anyway, so those are some of the choreographers that are going to be choreographing on us. And it's really exciting because we're going to start with Memoria, which is, I think, the 8th and the 12th, and it's going to be epic with the students and the first company members and the second company members. It will be their first time returning to the stage after 18 months, and they look amazing in rehearsal. So you have to come on those dates, and then we will have our first season that will be in March, which is going to be incredible at the Ailey City Group Theater. So there you have it.
Lots and lots and lots to look forward to. I'm excited for seeing Memoria with all you guys together on stage. Robert, talk to us a bit more before we get on to seeing some work tonight. I'd love to just get you to talk about a few highlights for the upcoming season. So Cry is going to be as part of the rep this season, and can you share with the audience why that's another significant? It's kind of a set of anniversaries that are happening, but I think it's very important. I think this pandemic has kind of prompted us to think a lot about these anniversaries and really take them seriously. So can you talk about Cry?
Yes. How many people know Alvin Ailey's masterpiece, Cry? Yeah. Oh, that's good. You won. If you look under your seat, you'll see absolutely nothing. But Cry was created in 1971. It was created on the legendary Judith Jamison, who really made it famous. It was a gift to Alvin's mother. As legend goes, he couldn't afford a gift, but what better gift than dance? And it is always in the program, it is for Black women everywhere, especially our mothers. And so I think Alvin Ailey had a certain appreciation for women, for Black women, as his mother was a single mother who birthed him in 1931 in Rogers, Texas. He saw the ills of segregation, of racism, of what she had to endure in order to make sure that he remained a healthy boy with a wonderful curiosity, and sort of nurtured him along the way. And we see the fruits of her labor in his legacy of works with messages of hope. Alvin Ailey always said what he was trying to do is hold a mirror to society so that people could see how beautiful they are. And I think that speaks volumes to what strong women has meant in his life. And I think Cry, celebrating its 50th anniversary, is a wonderful testimony to that, because indeed, Cry has to do with the birth of this company, of this organization, and that it continues to be fertile ground for creativity. So we're excited to be celebrating that dance at City Center.
And I'm just going to do a plug that Lazarus, which was the film, which was the dance work I got to see in rehearsal that we actually show in the Ailey film as it's coming together, is also going to be back this season, which is very exciting. And lots of new works, including your piece 4/4, which I'd love to talk about in terms of how you have sort of managed this unusual past couple years. It was a dance piece that you created for film, actually, and it will now be staged live. So can you talk a bit about, deciding to make a work for film and sort of your process with this piece? What was unusual, was exciting, what was terrifying?
Well, everything's been terrifying, so pick one. Making a dance seemed like the easiest thing I could do. But 4/4, let me just quickly give you a synopsis. It started with us needing something for one of the virtual benefits that we were doing. And so myself and Matthew and Bennett Rink, our executive director, and Eric Wright, the production, we were on a call, and they were kind of hinting that we needed another work. And I blurted out, "I'll do something." To which they said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do a solo." Well, the solo became a duet, right, Matthew? Then a week later, can you do it as a trio? And then it became 4. And so there's an inside joke, 4/4, F-O-R, F-O-U-R, but the music happens to be in 4/4. Aha, clever, always thinking. The music is also by Wynton Marsalis, who's a brilliant composer and musician, and I had done an interview with him about the collaborations between Duke Ellington and Alvin Ailey, so he was fresh in my mind. And so this music is really about the sort of pent-up energy of needing to get in the studio and create something. As far as film, I've never thought of myself as a dance filmmaker. I'm kind of, more about the proscenium and the whole thing. I'm a bit old-fashioned, so I let the cameras do all of that. I just made a little quick dance.
So in addition to all that you've been doing, you have created a position, the first to create a position for this gentleman here, Ailey resident choreographer, which is currently occupied by the wonderful Jamar Roberts. Long-time Ailey dancer, and just to set this conversation into some context, we will also be enjoying your works, which we're going to show some excerpts of, but this season we will also be bidding farewell to you as a performer. So, starting at the company in 2002, now being here in your third year as the resident choreographer, can you just sort of talk a little bit about, your journey? Just put it into, a brief statement.
There's a lot to say. There would be a lot to say about that, but to be short, I mean, dance is great. Being a dancer is awesome. It encompasses so much, but it's also very difficult. It's a difficult job to do. It also encompasses, it sort of consumes every part of you physically and every part of your life. I'll still dance, in some ways, but I feel very accomplished, and I feel very full, and I feel like I have enough applause and love and hugs to last me a lifetime. I mean, I've gotten more than I ever anticipated I would get at the start of my career. But I'm still involved, and I think that's great.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'll always be involved, for as long as I'm alive. So
I think that's actually one of the joys of having followed your career as a dancer, and then having gotten to witness you through the company evolve into a choreographer. You premiered 3 works for the company so far: Members Don't Get Weary in 2017, Ode 2019, a jam session for Troubled Times in 2020. And so I'm just curious, what has it meant to you to be able to continue your artistic voice now in this way, and to do it with the Ailey company?
So much. I mean, everything. I think just having the opportunity and having the resources to make work, I think, is any dance maker's dream, to be honest. And I really couldn't ask for a better position artistically. So that's kind of it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so you have this new work, Holding Space. You've made, so A Jam Session for Troubled Times was the first piece that you had to make for film,
Yeah.
And now Holding Space. So can you just talk to me a little bit about how is the process different from you? Is the camera influencing your choreographic language? Is it your setting the choreography first and then thinking about? I'm just very curious as a filmmaker myself in terms of how you're approaching the work.
Yeah, I generally don't consider the camera very much. I just do what I know how to do. I do my part, and I try to do it as thoroughly as I can. And then it actually depends on if I'm behind the camera or not, but I guess it really doesn't matter. I think.
Well, so for Holding Space, for example, were you behind the camera?
I was not behind the camera, but I was involved with what, shots that the camera was going to get. I think it really boils down to sort of capturing the essence of the piece, which doesn't mean one particular person or one particular shot, but I think just kind of getting the overall feel and the overall shape of it, and kind of, I don't know, being an all-seeing eye that kind of helps I don't really know how to describe it, but
it's interesting to think about the fact that you still start with the choreography first, and in this case, you're sort of working in tandem with the director to make sure that the essence is being captured. Because one thing, you know, that I've noticed is the way that there's a way in which, you know, if I'm filming a dance, I'm actually editing out. I'm making editorial decisions by choosing to focus on a single dancer at any given time, or a face in a way that's not the same as what you're thinking about for the proscenium. And so those choices in this work were interesting to me. But it did seem to me that, you know, even looking at this, it's very respectful.
Yeah, I think this is pretty standard, I think, if anything. I wanted everything to be seen. I mean, there are moments where we get a little tighter in. I think that's when emotionally things are a little bit louder so that we can feel them, we kind of get a little closer to them. But in general, I kept this pretty simple.
And I also just noticed, and we're getting maybe a little nerdy and technical here, but it's just because I can. You know, there was also just a lot of drift, like the camera is sort of kind of always moving, and I wondered if you had conversations about keeping it static, letting it drift the way a human eye might drift.
No, I'm all about movement and moving, so I actually didn't even consider that I could stop it from moving because I was so into the feeling of it.
So now Jamar is just going to take to the stage and do a bit of a coaching moment for us.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to do a little coaching of Jackie Green. Jackie Green, if you can come out. Holding space, I'm sure you've noticed this huge cube that the dancers were dancing in. This cube basically, well, I think all of the cast members represent society. What the cube does is acts as like a tool that kind of zooms in on one person's experience. The first time we see the cube within the context of the ballet is in a solo dance by Jackie Green here. What I'm gonna do and so as you've seen, like within the cube, the language that the dancers are sort of using is very expressive, it's complicated, it's intricate. And so I'm gonna do something I would never actually do, is provide commentary to some of that. So here we go. Wait, Jackie, before you start, I just wanna say that the first time we see the cube, I think that this solo is built around the idea of holding space for oneself or self-care. And she's doing it alone by herself. In the film, you had like 4 dancers, you know, they're holding space for the central dancer. But here it's just her alone. And go ahead. And so maybe she's sort of having thoughts or ideas about someone that she sort of longs to be with or touch. There's an embrace that she wishes to feel. The head of or hand of the person touches her as she comes down here. Maybe she's now remembering the way that they smelled or something of this nature. She heard a sound here that kind of interrupts her moment, and she goes back into the moment that she's having. A dreamy moment that's then interrupted by something that feels really formal here. And then maybe she sees a butterfly here that she catches, or has some feeling that she wants to hold on to that sort of makes her feel sort of nice in a moment that isn't so nice. Seeing something here on the floor that may remind you of someone that is in heaven, let's say, and you would like for them to be down here with you. Then follows into another moment. This is the serene feeling here that's then interrupted by I told her that this would probably be a moment of yoga practice where she holds her leg up. But it's simply a solo that kind of goes in and out of this woman basically trying to have a moment to take care of herself, but is constantly interrupted by other ideas, other thoughts, both internal and external. Thank you. That was really funny. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, now I want to ask Associate Artistic Director Matthew Rushing to join us for the last part of our conversation. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I think I want to start this section by actually just showing a highlight reel from Ailey All Access, which was the online program of free performances, talks, and short films that the company launched on March 30th, 2020, which was actually the anniversary of the first performance the company ever had, March 30th, 1958, but represented a kind of necessity becoming the mother of invention moment. So let's take a look at this sizzle reel, and then when we come back on the other side, we'll continue the conversation. A lot of work and effort in that. And also, it looks like a lot of fun, which is, when I looked at this, it was kind of remarkable to think about what we were living through as you were finding innovative and inventive ways to keep us connected to you and your work. So, Robert, first, can you just talk a little bit about this pivot moment and why it felt essential to provide this kind of access to the company?
Yes, I mean, I think the core values, we think a lot about change, right? It's sort of inevitable in a way. And we're constantly trying to change things to either make them fit within a pandemic or, all of the things that we have to do to adapt. But a teacher once told me to sometimes think about what doesn't change. And there you will find your core value. Alvin Ailey said, and we often use this quote, "Dance comes from the people and should always be delivered back to the people." Now we've added to that, in all ways. He didn't just say when the weather was good. The first instinct that the dancers had when we had to bring them home in March off the road for, of course, their safety, was for some of them to get together. Of course, it was one of the newest members of the company who said, "Why don't we do this thing like we're on Brady Bunch and we'll be in these little boxes?" Not knowing that we would all reside in little boxes, and that's not just a metaphor for New York City. Um, and so the first thing they did was the first part of Revelations. I've been buked and I've been scorned. That's where you saw where we had guest appearances by dogs, babies, and the rest. And the first time I saw it, the first thing I thought was, oh my goodness, there's dogs in the Revelations. It's my 10th anniversary. They'll think it's my idea. But I say with seriousness, I think that that became a light as a way forward. That in a way, the dancers were saying that their first instinct is to continue to deliver back to the people. And so the entire organization came together. You know, we are a vast organization. It's not just the main company, second company, school, what have you, arts and education, classes for real people, all came together and we codified it to Ailey All Access that would have sort of original content from the dancers, sort of diary entries, if you will, as choreography. We streamed works that we would never stream otherwise for people to see. We had millions of people and about, Christopher, our PR person, is here, there's 121 countries. 121, I knew I was close. I would have said 131, but you know, I'm a salesman. But it was amazing. So many people reached out to say that they had never seen the company, always wanted to, but you know, world gets in the way, right? And there we were able to provide this content. And so that's what Ailey All Access was all about, that thing that doesn't change.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And Matthew, because you haven't had a chance to kind of jump in here and offer your own experiences of making a work for film, I wanted to talk about Testament. And, you know, one of the things I'm curious about is sort of how do you think about communicating the sort of energy that I receive when I come see dance in a live performance? How did you think about doing that with this dance work in terms of using the camera or the outdoor setting, sort of all these creative ideas that you took with that piece? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, there were two other choreographers who I collaborated with, Clifton Brown, who's the assistant rehearsal director, and Usha Marie Sorzano, who's a former member of the Ailey Company. We came together and we had this idea of coming up with a piece to celebrate the anniversary for Revelations. And when the world did this pivot and we started getting into dance film, we as dancers did not have much training or any expertise. So we actually sought after a director, Preston Miller, who's a graduate of the Ailey Fordham BFA program and also the fiance of Jackie Green. So we reached out to Preston and said, hey, this is what we're doing, but we don't know dance on film, so can you help us out? And he was very pivotal in helping us as far as capturing the energy. He had us do what he called a beat sheet, and we literally had to write down each perspective, what we wanted to say at that moment, and we had to write it down in a way that it flowed, it connected from scene to scene to scene. And he took that beat sheet and created the list of the shots. So we were kind of schooled in a sense. We needed help, and this is something that, you know, dancers, we're in the studio most of, our training. Rarely are we in an editing room. So he really brought a lot of help as far as capturing the energy that you would normally see on stage.
Sorry, I'm not taking your job. No. Can you speak to, sort of how we found where it was shot, the park?
Wakefield, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember Eric, our general manager, Eric Wright, stumbled on, we were trying to find all these different locations. One of the most devastating and grueling processes was that trying to find where do we shoot. And it was getting cold at that time, so we were afraid of shooting outdoors, and Eric Wright, our general manager, came across Wave Hill. We went to the site, we did a little kind of overlook over it, and we spoke to the people, and we found out that they were willing to offer the grounds to us, basically for, I want to say for free.
Well, we do owe them.
We owe them something. Okay.
We owe them a performance.
Okay, all right.
Somewhere at the park.
Okay.
But we'll talk.
We'll talk about that later. But yeah, we had the entire grounds to basically do all of the shots that we probably, wouldn't be able to anywhere else because it was a time crunch as well. I think we did all that within 3 days, which is unheard of. So it was really learning, a huge lesson in a lot of the things that we didn't know, but just like Robert was saying, it was something that was in our DNA. There was no way that we could just pause and not do what we loved to do.
And it's so interesting watching Testament, which in the excerpt you saw it's the dancers outside in sort of flowing gowns. And Testament feels, it's made in the moment that we're kind of in the thick of it, but it feels very much like where we'll be on the other side. Whereas Robert and Jamar, your works feel like you are sort of forcing us to be in the moment we're in and feeling that kind of confinement and that constraint. Your dance has this exuberance in it, but it still feels somehow like it's boxed in. And then Jamar, you literally have boxes on the floor and a person in a box. So I think if each of you, maybe we'll start with you, Jamar, and just talk about like the squares that we see the dancers, they hardly leave for a moment. Everybody feels very stuck, and it felt like you were forcing us to confront ourselves in that moment.
Yeah, for sure. That was one of the hardest parts of making that piece, I think, are the COVID restrictions. There were boxes that were taped in black, so you can't really see it when you're watching the film, that the dancers had to only dance within. If they ever moved within the space, you had to move from box to box, you know what I mean, leaving room for, maybe a box in between, so that the what do they call it, the vapor can kind of like get out of the way before the next person enters. But it was definitely like a really huge feat. I mean, the piece in itself it's a container that's sort of supposed to deal with the tough moment, the tough emotions of the moment that we're in right now. So.
Yeah, and you very much feel that kind of stuckness,
yeah.
And yet at the same time, this sort of desire to be sort of outside of it, which we see.
Yeah, the tone shifts towards the end where it feels a little bit more light, hopeful, promising.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Robert, for you too, if you can just talk about, sort of staying in the moment and confronting those feelings that I think we all had of, just that frustration and that kind of pent-up energy.
Yes, I think it's like most of us. I mean, considering all of the elements that kind of move us. It's the reason I really don't like music. When you go into the store and you're just trying to buy a scarf, and then they're playing some song that reminds you of a breakup. And then, I was really happy when I got to the store, And so just being very much aware of so much politically and everything that was going on. And we're trying also to be positive, so much death around us. When we were sort of just starting to kind of come back into the space, come back into making work, that was before even the vaccine was available. And so we had to be in cohorts in order to sort of stay safe. There was so much going on that those taped boxes represented, that we were together, but in some ways we were very much apart. And so even this dance that I made, this little quick dance, that although I think it really represents the struggle to have fun and to be exuberant, but also the slippery ground that we were sort of being fertile on. I think that was very much what we were all dealing with in a way. And as a person who is, quote unquote, the leader, the notion of how do you pilot this plane, right? When all you want to do is sort of get off of it, right? And so I think that is captured in just that little 5 or 6 minute dance. And certainly as I watch his work and Testament, that you see different aspects of what we were all sort of living.
And, film provided this, sort of lovely space to continue for you, each individually in terms of making work, for the organization to continue to connect to audiences. And I'm just curious, sort of moving forward, each of you, you know, is it something that you are interested in continuing to pursue, or are you like, I cannot wait until I never have to have another camera. Let's be done with this.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it just broadens the perspective. It broadens, it gives dance a bigger platform. And for me, the more that I'm behind the camera, I think the more that I love it, because then I can really create and like paint the picture and show the audience exactly what I want to see, instead of, you know, them having to sit and watch the entire stage, which I think is really great, but you can be really specific, I think, with the camera, and I think that's awesome.
Personally, I'm done. but because I'm on an artistic team and I support our artistic director, and I'm part of an incredible organization that is forward thinking, I know I'm not really done. But I'm pretty sure we're going to be like more strategic as how we go about it and how we use it in certain platforms, but personally, done.
Don't you appreciate honesty these days, right? Right? Every time. And I know exactly what Matthew means. I also do think that there's this wonderful opportunity. Once the cat's out of the bag, I mean, people who, we can't get to every, you know, state in every city as a company, even with the second company going to cities where the first company can't go. There are people who can't necessarily get to us. And so we've sort of kind of let the cat out of the bag, that there's another way, there's an augmentation of a way that you can be involved, that you can experience this. And so we've already started our digital presence, and we've sort of codified it now. That means you got to pay. That's what that means, codify. But as a way, not a whole lot of money, as a way, just the cost of a martini, to continue to offer these digital offerings. And so, and I also think that one of the things, interestingly enough, when we were thinking about our 5-year plan, our 10-year plan, we were always planning, you know, nonprofit. We were thinking a lot about how to broaden our digital footprint. It's just that this kind of forced us to really, like, go there. And so I think this is a part of the building blocks of continuing to reach audiences that we wouldn't otherwise reach, but always letting them know that there is nothing like, right, being in the theater, laughing, and hearing somebody else laugh at the same thing next to you, I think keeps a toehold on the universe, right, in a way. That is a part of the common humanity. It may seem like a simple thing, but when you look over and you see somebody laughing at something you think is funny, it lets you know something about your humanity, right? That is something that can't be duplicated or replicated. And so we're going to do it all, right? Yes. I've heard this new phrase, it's this and that. Yes? This and that.
Well, I'm just going to say, selfishly as a filmmaker, I hope you do continue, because my capacity to even make a film chronicling Alvin Ailey's life and his work was only possible because people had actually documented the dance works on film, and it was glorious to be able to revisit them, through the ages. So, you know, for future filmmakers who want to make biographies about each of you on the stage, you know, I hope that you will continue to document the work in this way. To close out the evening, we have one more excerpt of a piece by Jamar, Chronicle of a Pivot at a Point in Time. Sorry, Jamar. A Chronicle of a Pivot at a Point in Time. Can you set this piece up for us?
Yes, Chronicle, in short, was a piece that was commissioned by the wonderful Works in Process Guggenheim. It was made over 2... Yes, please. It was made over 2 residencies at 2 different points in time. One of them at the Petronio Residency Center, the other was at the Catskill Mountain Foundation. It's danced by 5 dancers of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater with music by David Watson. What you will see here is a 6-minute trailer of the work, but the full work will be performed here at the Guggenheim spring of 2022. in its 26-minute entirety. So that's that.
All right. that is our evening, everybody. Thank you very much, Robert. You have something to
Thank
add?
you. No, I don't have anything to add. Thank you,
Thank you so
everybody.
much for coming. Thank you.